with us tonight, and a few of the other, I had a list I was going to go through and introduce a lot more people, and she said, no, that's too many, you guys. So anyway, but I want to introduce our family here first, and then some of the special guests we have here who are retirees from CASE CNH. So I'll start out, and I would ask each of you to stand so that people can see you. Let's start with my mother.
What's her name?
Arlene, Sealine. She lives in Webster City, Iowa, and we're glad that she was able to join us tonight.
Very happy to be here.
Next, I guess everybody knows Shirley, so I'm going to introduce her. Our daughters, I'll start with Cheryl. I think she's the oldest one. Cheryl lives in Bettendorf, and she's a teacher at middle school. She teaches 7th graders, and I think that would be one of the most difficult ones to teach. And her two sons, Jacob, who is almost 15, but still 14.
Next week.
And Tyler, who is 10. And Charles' fiance, who is, what's your name now, Scott?
You'll get to know it, don't worry.
Scott Johansson, who's already standing up in the back there. Our other daughter, Cindy, lives in Chanhassen, which is a western suburb of Minneapolis. And her husband is Larry Loving. And their two boys are Hans. And Hans is 2 years old, be 3 in what, 2 months?
Yep.
And Thorson, who is 6. Other family members, my sister Anita. You stand, Anita? And her husband Doug Johnson. Area in Hiawatha. I have 2 other sisters and 1 brother who were not able to be with us tonight. And then in Shirley's has her sister here is Bonnie. And her husband is Roger Severson. In Des Moines, Iowa. And Shirley's cousin, Bonnie-Ann Larson, is with us tonight. And her fiance, Wendell Burbank, who's born. And they have a May 1st wedding, which we're looking forward to. Some of the others, some of the retirees that, from CNH, like to recognize, let's see, where's Jack and Ruth? Oh, they're in the back there. As far as I know, am I correct, Jack, that you were the first employee in engineering at Burlington? Jack started in 1957, and he was on the trip with us from Burlington to Bettendorf to Wausau, but then he bailed out. And his wife, Ruth, you sit. guests that we have, retirees, Bob and Treva Giddings. Bob worked with us at Burlington and at Bettendorf and at Wausau. Bob was responsible for development of the 1450, 1450B, 1550, and 1550 is one of the sore points with me and a lot of us that was dropped from the production line, which one of the many decisions which turned out to not be a very good decision that was made. So we're glad to have Bob and Treva with us tonight. Bill, Bud, and Eileen. Let's see. Okay, Bill worked with Bill at Burlington, and then Bill was responsible for development work on the 750, 850 crawler. Then when he went to Bettendorf, he was in charge of administration, charge of the experimental department, charge of specifications, and he was the one that kept things running smooth. He's another. He bailed out though and didn't go to Wausau with us, so he stayed in Bettendorf. We're glad to have them with us tonight. Let's see. Oh, wow. Bob and Linda Barton. Bob started out working in the hydraulics area, but then switched to, I guess it was better opportunities in the CAD and in the computer systems area. But Bob worked with us here at Burlington. In fact, Bob and I graduated from Iowa State, same time, both in engineering, and we started the same day at Burlington. So we have something together there. And we transferred together in 1970 when we went to Bettendorf, and then to Wausau, and then when we came back to Burlington, Bob went to East Moline, I believe, right? Right. Yeah.
And now Thunder.
I'd like to recognize John and Sherry Buxton. John didn't work with us at Burlington. Well, he did when we came back to Burlington, but John joined us at Bettendorf and was with us at Wausau, and then came to Burlington for what, 2 years? About 2 years Bob was at Burlington with us. And I think over the years, John was a very capable designer, and we certainly miss having him on the team. We were going to play some of Sherry's music this evening. I don't know if you know, but she's quite an accomplished pianist, and she has 3 CDs, which she was kind enough to send us, which we have really enjoyed. And we were going to play them, but I thought, no, it's just too difficult to size a group. But we really have enjoyed your music. A couple other retirees. Well, he's not really Bob and Nancy Pilger. Oh, there they are back there. Okay. Bob and Nancy again have made the whole trip from Burlington to Bettendorf to Wausau and back to Burlington. And in fact, I guess I'd like all those that at least made part of the trip. Somebody didn't make the whole trip, but a good part of it. If you would stand to be recognized. Oh, yeah, Art and Dave. So just one other comment. I thought that Cindy and Larry are the ones that come the furthest, but then Rick Hall has that beat. He came all the way from Italy. Well, I know, but we appreciate that extra effort to join us tonight. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Dave. Dave?
Okay.
Ron has kind of spoiled my whole presentation. No, I'm just kidding. And the only reason I'm giving this presentation is because I'm the oldest living engineer left in the crowd. But before I do start, there is one other guest that I would like to introduce. Mrs. Elton Sue Long is with us tonight. She came with John Schultz. And thank you. We're really glad to have Sue here. Of course, Elton Long was kind of the grandfather of all construction equipment engineering and started here in Burlington. And took us through all those years. We wouldn't be here if it weren't for him. So with that, I'm going to start. I hope my computer works, and I'll start my... Oh, you might want to move that one balloon. I think it'll block the people.
No cutters. No cutters.
We want the
I
lights
don't
down.
like
No, I
it.
think it'll show okay.
Daddy, I don't like it.
More romantic. Well, I think it
Where's Hans?
may
Where's
help.
Hans? Where's Hans?
That's fine. That's fine.
Where's Hans?
As long as you can read it.
Where's Hans?
Okay.
Who's that?
We're going to talk about Ron Saline's case
Who's
history.
that? Who's that?
He started in July of
Yes, sir.
'64, and this was his first job after graduating from Iowa State University. That's the same day as Bob Barton, that I didn't realize that. Ron's first project was the 1150 crawler, which was released in 1966. Other projects he worked on
Now
were
we can't see where.
350 crawler, and he also worked on a hydrostatic powered 450 that never got to production, but it was a good experience for him because later, much later, we would have a series of hydrostatic tractors also. This was the 1150, originally set to be released as a 1050, then changed the model number at the last minute. And here it is working at the Burlington Proving Grounds. Another picture of it. The thing that's kind of interesting about this picture is this fellow's working this crawler in logging. There's not a bit of protection on this thing. Today, of course, regulations require a rollover structure and screens all around it. He doesn't even have a hard hat on. This was the 310 crawler, which was replaced by the 350 dozer and loader. We had both models in those days.
Hey, good.
And here was a really,
Nothing
I
going.
guess this was later on in Burlington.
Okay.
Three guys who were very, very instrumental in the crawler engineering group. The guy on the far right, of course, is Elton Long. And then in the middle is Rudy Horsch, who was our chief engineer at Bettendorf for the years that we were there. And Don Stout, who was department engineer in crawlers while we were at Burlington and then later in Bettendorf.
If it goes.
In the spring of 1970, Case announced that the crawler production and engineering would be transferred to Bettendorf, Iowa. Ron was one of 25 people selected to be transferred. And most of us really weren't crazy about transferring, when we first were told. So we had some sales pitches from our management that said how good Bettendorf was. One of the promises was, you're going to love the Quad Cities. There's always gas wars up there. Of course, you know what happened in the 70s. We didn't have gas. It said the housing costs in the Quad Cities are no more expensive than Burlington. That was true if you bought a trailer house. And they also, where we had to park at Bettendorf was quite a long walk to the engineering office. It was an annex building. And we were told that we were going to get a parking lot closer to the office. That didn't happen, except Ron got to park closer. This was the entire group at Burlington in 1970. You can see Ron over there where the arrow is. And several of the faces you recognize. And then this is the group that was chosen to transfer. Now, most of these guys did transfer. A few of them were transferred and then decided they couldn't hack the Quad Cities and came back. But this was the core group that was transferred to Bettendorf in 1970. This was a typical product engineering picture in Burlington in 1970. The thing that's interesting here is there's nothing but drawing boards. And today we have one drawing board left. Everything else is, of course, done on computers today. This was the last Burlington crawler, which was produced in October. We had already transferred to Bettendorf, but it's a 350 crawler. Of course, there's Elton Long in the middle. I think on the far left is Paul Duffy. The other two I don't know, but
John Slocum.
thank you. This was the Bettendorf plant where we were moved to. The plant was located right along the Mississippi River, and the river ran east to west there instead of north to south. It messed us up for a long time. Today, that plant, of course, is gone. The main office, I think, is still there. It's been replaced by a gambling boat. Once settled in Bettendorf, Ron's first major project was an 1150B, a kind of a continuation of the 1150 product line. It was released in 1973, and it was a major step forward, including a completely fabricated welded chassis. And Ron received an award from Lincoln Welding and a nice cash prize for his work in development of the fully welded chassis. Here he's getting his award. Doesn't he look young there? The fellow on the right is Rudy Horsch, of course. And I don't know who the guy on the left. He might have been with Lincoln.
No, he was.
Or was he personnel?
Yeah, his personnel.
Forey Brett?
Yeah, Forey Brett.
Oh, okay. This, of course, is the 1150B, one of the early prototypes, and the engineering people. Some of those you'd recognize. That's Bob Pilger in the striped shirt. And of course, Ron back there where the arrow is. And then this is the 1150 loader. Again, we had a loader and a dozer model. And several of the people in the front row you'd recognize. Far right, that's Bob Barton, looking young. His next project was the 850 replacement, 850B, and that was released in 1976. It was also a major redesign from the older model, kind of along the lines of the 1150, with the exception that it had a rigid suspension. This was the old 850 model, and then the 850B loader, which is a fairly modern machine for that time, and the 850B dozer. Those machines stayed in production until '81. And I won't read through all of the models that were released in our Bettendorf days, but our Bettendorf days were truly the good old days. We released 22 models in 17 years. That was averaging more than one model per year. Other projects during that time, we had a Unimog. It's a special military vehicle that I've got some pictures afterwards. It's a kind of a neat machine, and it was very mobile. And we had a Unicrawler that never quite made it to production, but it was a cross between a skid steer loader and a crawler, if you know what a skid steer is. Got some pictures of that. And as I said, the Bettendorf years were the most productive. During that time, we built and shipped over 53,000 crawlers. That was the highest production at any time in the history of crawlers. And Ron managed to find time during that time period to earn his MBA while working full-time. This was kind of a unique vehicle that we had during the 70s and 80s. It was a 475 cable plow. Jack Baylor was the project engineer for this machine. It had, of course, that structure up front. You mounted a big spool of cable that would spool up over those reels and into the knife that would go into the ground and vibrate and pull it through. It's quite a machine. And there's still quite a few of those out running today. This was the Unimog, and as we said, it mounted on a Mercedes-Benz truck. This was, as I said, was very mobile. In fact, it found its way to Rudy's backyard to help with digging a swimming pool. This is what the Unimog looked like when the backhoe was in position. And then this was the Unicrawler that kind of a cross between, and it was a cute little idea, but it just never quite got to production. Here we were testing it in a simulated tree removal. I don't think it would have ever gotten that tree out, but we had test gauges on it. The interesting thing about the X25 or that there was a toy made of it, and it never even got to production. We have our new crawlers, and we've been waiting over a year to try to get a toy. These are just some slides from the Bettendorf years here of some of the guys here. The first one is a picture of Ron and Jack Baylor and Bill Budd. I don't know what the occasion was. But boy, I'm telling you, these guys look bored. I hope it wasn't a dance because they're just sitting there. Here's a picture of Ron with Bob Giddings getting a service award, probably a 10-year award in Bettendorf, I'm guessing. And here's Ron with Al Erickson, a fellow who's since retired from the case. And then here's a group in the mid-70s, engineering group. Some of those you recognize. Of course, Ron's on the far right. Larry Miller, John Luxton's next to the far left, and then Al Erickson. Here's Ron and Rudy presenting Al Erickson with a patent ring. And then here's three guys who were pretty important to the crawler group also. Of course, Elton Long on the left, Claude Frisbee in the middle, and Rudy Horsch. And Claude was being presented with a patent award there. Claude was one of two in our engineering group that achieved master inventor status, and the other is Jack Baylor, who's back in the back of the room. And then here's a picture of Bill Budd, Ron, and Rudy, and Elton. I don't know what the... Rudy was the only one smiling and the only one with a pen. And then Ron here is getting his 20-year service award in 1984. In 1986, Case announced that it would be consolidating plants, and the first announcement was the Wausau plant would be closed and that product would be brought back down to Bettendorf. We thought that was a good idea. And somewhere along the line, between the time when it actually happened, we ended up here. The Wausau plant, though, was a very modern facility built in the early 80s. It was built by Tenneco for draught manufacturing, who at that time worked for Case. Finished building. The main plant was just behind that white building that you see as the office. This was the main office, and I'm telling you, it was a nice office. We had lots of room, lots of nice. Everybody seemed like they had an office. Good, and a beautiful view to the outside, watching the deer. The consolidation of those two plants was made in '87. The Bettendorf plant and the Terre Haute, Indiana plant were both moved to Wausau, Wisconsin. And the Terre Haute plant had wheel loaders, of course, crawlers from Bettendorf. The first major project at Wausau was the 1550 crawler. As Ron had said, Bob Giddings was the project engineer on the 1550. It was a complete redesign with just very few carryovers. The main thing that was different was it was hydrostatic drive. In this picture was taken in September of '87 when that first 1550 was shipped. And of course the thing that strikes me about this picture is there's sure a lot of people. This was the 1550 back, or in an advertising photo, but it was a truly good machine. We had a few control problems at first that were ironed out, and then we still hear of a lot of those machines running with 16 to 20,000 hours on them. The first regular crawler production then, following the 1550, were the 850 and 1150. The 450 crawler, one of our highest volume crawlers when we were in Bettendorf, was transferred to Samsung Heavy Industries in South Korea. Another one of those decisions, like Ron said, that didn't make a lot of sense. Because after about 3 or 4 years, they came back. And then the 1150E model was the next product to be released, but we also had a major contract with the Marine Corps for a special crawler that could run in up to 5 feet of water. Now this picture, it shows, that's Claude Frisbee with the fishing hat, probably appropriate because he's going in the water here pretty soon. But the tape you see is 5 feet above the ground. And we made a special pond up in Cronenwetter. And here we ramp. Claude's driving that crawler down and he's bracing himself. There he's propped his feet up on the instrument panel. And he's looking at his watch. We had to stop the tractor for a period of time and restart it several times. I know he was hoping it would restart because I was taking pictures. I wasn't going to help him. The 550, 850E models were released in '91. And they had some major upgrades. Probably the biggest improvement was in the brakes and the controls. In the early 1990s, however, the construction equipment industry started to experience another slowdown, and once again, Case was looking to reduce manufacturing capacity. So the Wausau plant was closed in '93. Wheel loaders went to Fargo and crawlers to Burlington. With the transfer of crawlers to Burlington, the 1550 was dropped, as Ron said earlier, and also the loader models. We just brought down dozers. The first crawler production in Burlington in '93 was the 850E. Here we moved back down to Burlington, and we moved the crawlers to the very north end of the plant. Now, we complained about that walk up in Bettendorf. That wasn't half as far as the office to this area down here, but it was okay. It worked out okay. This was the first crawler that was built in Burlington. See Ron's over there on the far side on the left. Several quads on the far side on the right. John Luxton was in this group too. John and myself did spend some time on the floor with some of these assemblers when that first crawler was built. And then the 550E started in October of that year, and the 1150E in January of '94. The 850G dozer was built in '94, the 5 and the 1150 in '95, but between '95 and '98 there were few crawler projects. The budgets didn't allow us to build any new models, and Ron was tasked with managing engineering design work for skid steers at Wichita. The XT skid steer design helped to fill in and keep some of the crawler engineers working during that time. It just goes to show Ron's ability to be a team player through all the years, and it worked out very well. The next major crawler program was the H series. It was a major upgrade to all the existing models, plus we added 2 new models. And it was also the first program to use what we call the global product development process. It's kind of a team approach. And so Ron, during that time, took a new title of platform manager for the crawlers. Before that, he was chief engineer, doing essentially the same work. And Steve Lees was named the program manager. This was the launch of those H-series crawlers in the first quarter of 2000. And then the 750 was one of the new models that was released with that launch. And here's the 1150H with the father of crawlers at that time. And here's Ron receiving a patent award in 2001 from John Pierre Rossel. That patent is out there on the table. Part of the patent was for brake work, I think, is what it said on a crawler. The H-series was released as a stopgap. We knew that we weren't keeping up with competition. For all of those long years that we did nothing with crawlers, both Cat and Deere had come out with hydrostatic drive crawlers, and that was the way the market was going. So we had to come with a new family of crawlers that would be hydrostatic driven. This would be the first, really one of the first major programs to go with what is called the common platform, because we built both Case and New Holland. And they were first released in late 2002 and first shipped in the first quarter of 2003. These were dual path hydrostatic electronic controls, truly state-of-the-art machines. Part of the GPD process was to send 2 of these crawlers out all over the country. We had teams of engineers and marketing people going with them and getting customer input. It turned out to be a really good program. Ed Dalton was kind of the chairman of that program. Did a great job with it. This was the 850K K-Series. It truly is a modern machine that's closed the gap with competition. In many ways, with serviceability, is better than competition. The crawler production at Burlington was discontinued in June of 2003, and production of crawlers moved to a Cabelco plant in Calhoun, Georgia. This was the last crawler. Now you saw that 350 crawler that was the last crawler way early in this presentation. Well, this is, I think, really the last crawler because I don't think they're coming back. But this is an 850K, the last crawler built. And Ron is in the picture. You just can't see him because he's hidden under the canopy there. In a lot of ways, I think that's a little bit symbolic of how Ron ran his office. He was at the controls, but he let other people take the credit in a lot of cases. Here's the New Holland brand.
That's Grandpa.
And that's a DC-95. That's Grandpa, that's right. and
Grandpa too.
there's Grandpa with the case. And then
That's
here is
Grandpa too.
both
Welcome.
crawlers, the common platform with Ron and of course Steve Lees as the two team leaders on the common platform.
That's Grandpa
Ron was
too.
hard at work
That's
right up to the
Grandpa.
last day. Actually, it was about a week or two beyond the last day. He came in and
That's
finished
Grandpa
reports.
too.
Uh,
Sad.
Ron was a tireless worker. He worked late nights just about every night. So after coming full circle, Burlington to Bettendorf to Wausau, and finally back, Ron has decided to retire. And he, of course, has been a major factor in crawlers from the beginning. And he's helped solve a lot of problems, as you might imagine, with this type of machinery. There's a lot of problems and a lot of fixes, sometimes fixes for the fixes, but through the years we've kept ahead, and we wish Ron the very best in his retirement. So with that, I'm going to turn the mic over to Steve Lees, and
I feel like such a youngster here.
Thorson.
I'd like to give Dave a nice hand. He did a nice job. I won't be nearly as long-winded, but fine job. Most of you people in here don't know Dave Hill, but he left the company, but he sent an email. I thought I'd start out just by reading what he said because it kind of encapsulates a lot of Ron and how he touched all of us. But he said, rumor has it that Ron Sealine has, after many years of contemplation, decided to retire. Well, I'm sure Ron would say that there are not enough resources to properly execute a party, not enough lead time to order the cake, and certainly not enough data to properly understand. For those of you who work with Ron, he loves data. So Dave hit that one on the head. Let's see, not enough data to understand what is really needed for a suitable celebration. I think few people who deserve more than Ron a good send-off. So please wish him many years of endless happiness during his career as a retired person, and from someone who learned many important lessons from him, Dave Hill. So I thought that was nice of Dave to send that. In 1998, like I said, I'm kind of a newcomer. I remember going through the interviewing process, and they interview you all day long when you go to work for the company. And everywhere I turned, what did they say? You're going to be working for the nicest guy in the world. He's the best engineer you could ever run across. He really knows his dozers. Well, the real trick to that was I was hired on April Fool's Day. And little did I know, just two of those things were right. He is a heck of a nice guy. Oh, and a good engineer. But working with Ron through the years, he's a true professional in everything he does. You know, he always, like Dave said, he always puts the team first. He's always in the background. I don't think, his ethics are unquestionable. His talent's unquestionable. in the 6 years that I've worked with Ron, and God knows he's had enough times to be upset or lose his cool, but under the pressure, I've never seen him lose his cool. He's just always very even keeled. That's a good example. So, as Dave pointed out here, the last dozer that we launched, which is the K series, which is a more modern machine, but thanks to the team and to Ron, we just launched a dozer that's world class. It's heads above no one in the world, and now we got Cat and John Deere trying to chase us to play catch up. So I think that's fantastic. So, Ron, I'd like to thank you. You've been a great boss and more so a mentor and a teacher for me. So I wish you the best in your retirement.
Where'd Dave go?
Well, I'm looking for something. I have a letter here from Rudy Horsch, but now I can't find it. So I'm gonna find that and read it a little bit later. But I'm gonna turn the. See, I guess at this point we're gonna open the floor for anybody who would like to come up and say a few words while I look for Rudy's letter. So. Is there anybody? No takers? After all these years, this is your chance to tell him what you think of him. He can't do anything anymore now. Okay, well, Ed, would you like to? Okay.
I'd like that.
Well, you, yeah. Sure.
Well, I guess that isn't gonna work, so. I've had the good fortune to work with Ron closely for over 38 years. And I first got to know him when I was in Racine, when I started for the company. And Ron used to bring his hydraulic components, cylinders, valves, pumps, and even the transmissions up to Racine for us to test. And in fact, you saw Dave showed that the 1150 was one of Ron's first projects. Remember the X70 transmission? That's what actually went in that 1150? Yes. Well, that transmission tells a lot about Ron and his band of merry designers. They designed that transmission for 70 horsepower. That's what it actually was at the time when it was introduced. And that same transmission is what's being put in today's 1150H at 120 horsepower. In fact, it's even was put in the 1450 at 140 horsepower.
That was too much.
But I think you designed it good, Ron. Now, then I moved on to Rock Island and had a chance to even work closer with Ron. We used to build the cylinders and the transmissions, and of course, we'd be getting together all the time. Bettendorf was just across the river. And then a while later, I moved on to the proving grounds here in Burlington. And again, I had a lot of opportunity to work with Ron. He would send his crawlers, and we would test them in the field there. Had a lot of opportunity to travel with Ron. We'd go to the Arizona proving grounds, we go visit dealers, we visit customers. We even went to Brazil once. And of course, the last 5 years, or almost 6 years, I've worked very close with Ron right here in Burlington. But the point of all this is that after 38 years, I've had ample opportunity to gather and observe and have some really juicy tidbits to tell you about Ron's escapades. Now, where do we begin? But you know, the truth of it is, I can't tell you a darn thing that's nasty about Ron. He's just too nice a guy. But I do have one observation that I want to share with you. For 38 years, I've seen it in action. Now we'd be getting together and reviewing things about the crawlers, and when there'd be a group of us around there, and we'd be discussing things, and I had to look over at Ron and notice all of a sudden you get this strange twinkle in his eye. And the next thing you know, he'd disappear. And sure enough, a few minutes later, he'd come back with a half-eaten donut in his hand. And I know he had to have at least one more besides that. Ron could whiff out a donut from the farthest corner of the building, even with the wind blowing in the wrong direction. This guy was amazing. I don't know, Ron, how the heck, after all those donuts and all those years, you managed to keep that slim, trim figure. But all kidding aside, Ron, it's been a pleasure for me to work with you, and you've done a fine job. I've been impressed with the way you deal with people. You're a class act. I hope you enjoy your retirement. I do have a little something I'd like to give you. Open this.
Is it safe?
Well, we'll find out. Guarantee. Oh, and by the way, this is not a lifetime gift certificate to Krispy Kreme. Now, Ron Sealine has built prototype tractors his entire career, and this is a prototype too. It's the 1850 Tier 2 dozer that was just recently released. I wish we had a model of the hydrostatic dozers that we just launched, but unfortunately the model prototype crew isn't as efficient as the Burlington designers are. They haven't even started on it yet.
Actually, this unit was designed and is being built in Lecce, Italy. It's being imported into the U.S. and being marketed as a case car.
Thank you. And now, Jerry, I think Jerry's got a special gift that he'd like to give to Ron too.
I'm not gonna let you
This is
go.
this is the guy.
Well, Ron's worked hard all of his life, and now he's gonna probably take up some different things for exercise and everything. So we do have a few gifts for you, Ron. You have to come up to get them.
Oh. Okay. Now let's see what's inside.
Yeah, Ron's gonna take up golf now, right?
Well, I haven't played much golf in the last few years, but I'm hoping to have the opportunity to do a little bit more of it in the future than what I have had the last few years. So, yeah, thank you.
We have another gift here for you that since you're just gonna take up this game again, or have you played it before? Golf. Okay.
I'm not much of a golfer.
Okay.
I wonder what is it? Oh!
This is a golf ball retriever. We know that Ron's not going to quit working, so we got him another little gift. And hope he appreciates this. Because I still think Ron's going to be keep working, even on the sidelines. Now, Ron's worked real hard helping us down south in Burlington, and there's some gentlemen sent up a picture for you, for all your good work you helped us with down there.
Okay, very neat, thank you. We've had some dozers, some experimental dozers that have, there's a greater blue heron wildlife refuge south of town that is being developed, what is it, like 1,000 acres or something? 1,500 acres. So we've had some dozer participation in the project, thanks to Jerry's participation and help in it. So this is a picture, a neat frame of their entrance to the wildlife reserve.
And did you notice the last name on the sign?
Oh. Okay, 650 acre non-hunting wetland enhancement area, funding provided by NRCS, I don't know what that is, USFW, Brockway family, technical assistance provided by U.S. Corps of Engineers, Iowa DNR, MNCCD, and Ron Sealine.
Hey, Jerry,
Yes.
why don't you tell them how many ducks went through there this year?
I think they said there was 400,000 breasted there. At one time they
Yeah,
counted.
this is a safe landing area for, I'm not much of a hunter, but for ducks to, where they have
Resting.
for protection on their trip
South.
and back north. Yeah.
Right.
Both.
Both.
Round trip. Okay, and this is a shirt.
It'll match your vest. Well, all these gifts, I may have to have some help from some of the grant.
Help open this gift. Grandpa?
Somebody help me, Thorson? No? Okay, so how did we find that there was still one left over? This was
Compliments of Steve Lee's.
right off his back? This shirt, which says crawler, mine is, in fact, I had two. First one, I still gained it, and then they found an extra one, and I wore it, and so it's kind of wore out too, so I'm glad to have a fresh one.
Wednesday, the green shirt day.
Oh, okay. This is like $50. Okay, I haven't seen this hat. Power stat goes with hat. There.
And no retirement's complete without this.
Without this.
How did you get tape off?
Okay, okay, thank you. So these are bookends with the case eagles.
And this is from your Lindsay case.
Okay, thank you very much for gift certificate to Menards, which seems to be a popular spot for a lot of things, so I'm sure I will find something there.
And our son works there, so we'll get a cut out of it.
Okay. Thank you.
Ron, these are gifts and cards that people brought in. I don't know anything about that, so you can open them, I guess. Record it. Or do you want to talk to much?
Tell you what,
For the second time.
why don't you have a seat real quick here, and I'm gonna read Rudy's letter.
Oh, okay, fine.
It's imprinted on my brain.
Oh,
The reason I don't have his original letter is Rudy's handwriting is still bad. So I typed a copy and I gave the original back to Shirley this afternoon. So she has the original letter. She'll show it to you. And you'll have to tell me if this is verbatim or not. But here's the general message. Rudy says to you, I never thought you would ever retire because you always gave 100% in everything you did. He said also that all these years you have been my right hand and you've made my career successful and enjoyable. And he said that when you and Shirley are traveling in California, to be sure and stop in and see them. And then he said to tell everyone hello. That was pretty much the message, not verbatim, but it's close. And I guess if nobody else, is there anyone else that wants to say something before we turn the mic over here to Ron?
Can you hold it?
I can hold it for you.
Or we kids and I.
Okay.
You want to go first?
Oldest first.
I know. Thank you. Are you gonna come with me? No? I'm gonna be up there in a minute. Yeah, as you know, I'm the oldest, so that's down.
here was feeling some aches and pains as I went skiing yesterday with 300 seventh graders. And I thought I'm getting kind of old to still be doing this with the kids. But then I was thinking, well, Dad's worked as long as I've been alive, so that's even harder to believe. And the summer at our high school class reunion, a lot of my friends said, well, what are your parents doing? They just couldn't believe that Dad was still working for Case, because that just is very unusual for their parents to still be working or stay at the same place. But I just want to say thank you for all your hard work. You really made my life easier, and you instilled a lot of family values, and especially education, which is interesting. When I went into education, if I remember, you wanted good grades. A's were very important, and that probably helped me in my college, even though I didn't pick Iowa State. I picked the better school, Iowa. But of course, my sister had to show me up and be the better sister and pick Iowa State. That's okay. But he always put family first, even though Cindy and I were involved in a lot of things, and he, would be working late. He still made it to our events, and he reminded me of a teacher, because I'm always home correcting papers, and he'd always be home at night during work. And a lot of people, once you're done with your job, you go home and you don't think about it, but he'd be there working until 10 or 11 at night. And so he instilled a lot of career values too, to keep working hard. And I know Scott and I want to do that for our kids too. And so I want to thank all of you for coming tonight to honor my dad. And I guess success is not how long you work, but the difference you make. And you made a lot of difference in my life and for everybody here. Thank you. Cheryl and I were talking about how we had to write notes and how we weren't that comfortable speaking without our notes, and she did her whole thing without her notes. No, I've got my notes. So we have, very similar things probably to say about my dad. Talking about values, and when I think about my dad retiring, the first thing that comes to my mind is that now he'll have, a new way to live his values, and hopefully they'll be the most meaningful part of his life. But I'm so thankful for the values that both my parents instilled on our family. And when I think about my dad and how his values were applied to his career, I always think about the values of loyalty and commitment. And not only did he have commitment to his profession, but he also had commitment to his company. And my mom always shared in those values, and she was, always what I would call his, best champion. And so they would talk about work, and even though she might not have understood all the technical issues that were going on, she was, always there to offer her own insights, and I think was very supportive. And now, when I was growing up, I always, would hear my dad talking about work at the dinner table, but I didn't really understand much what, he was talking about, except that I always knew that he never seemed to complain about it. He never talked about anything unfavorable, that he was not, happy or didn't want to go to work the next day. And in fact, we would talk about Case, and my mom would say he went to Case, and when I was little, I thought that Case meant work. I didn't know that it was a company. I just thought he went to Case. That was the same thing as work. And now that I'm a third way through my career, and I think about how long he's worked, I've come to more of appreciation of the talents and values that he passed on to my sister and I. His dedication, his fairness and thoroughness. And now it's interesting to hear people talking about how his love for lots of data, because sometimes I'm criticized for that in my job. So I'm like, it's a strength, but yeah, depends on how you use it, I guess. And also, I really value his, he's quiet, but yet very strong. And I think that, I hope that I can live out those same values in my career, the rest of my career, and with my family. And one thing that Cheryl also said was that, even though his work was very important to him and he really valued that, he always put his family first. And even with the long hours, he'd go and work early, but he'd always usually be home for dinner. So I always remember we'd have our dinners together and in the evening, and he would help us out with homework. And then, he would always put that extra hours in the weekend, but he never, he didn't even think about it too much. So I really hope that, I can maintain the same dedication that he had to his career. And I think, as different people have talked here, it's very unusual in my generation for someone to stay at their company for as long as my dad has. And, I think that's kind of a sad change in the world that it's not as valued to stay with something that you've excelled in your own company. So I celebrate the value in his succeeding to play a career-long role in one company's success, and I celebrate that J.I. Case allowed my dad to use his talents and support my family through our growth. So, and like Cheryl said, it really made our lives a lot easier. So I really appreciate everything that J.I. Case did, and I appreciate everybody coming here tonight and celebrating in that. I celebrate that my dad can now focus more of his time and energy embracing the more relaxing and valued aspects of his life. Because after all, commitment and loyalty to family, in the end, is what we are all working towards in life. And now he's able to hopefully enjoy the fruits of his labor, and hopefully he's found the gold at the end of his rainbow, because he really deserves it. Thanks.
Here's a present from me to him.
Okay. I'm not sure where you got this from. Okay, yeah, this is a picture of me beside one of the new crawlers.
Oh.
Thank you.
Will you be able to make it to the wedding, or will you be working?
The new boss.
A little bit.
Well, I hope I won't take too long, but that's not too many pages, is it? Oh, that's his honey-do list.
Okay. I too want to thank all of you for coming tonight. We've come a long way, dear. When Ron sent out his email to let everyone know that he was retiring, he talked about the journey he has taken, and we've taken that journey together.
Let's go, Grandma.
It started with us meeting at a little college in Forest City, Iowa, Waldorf. And of all places to meet, two friends set us up, and we met in the mechanical drawing room. Romantic. And of course, in that mechanical drawing room, I learned about the slide rule. That was like a doctor's stethoscope. All important. Someone mentioned too about the statistics and liking to do, now I'm going to forget the word, it'll come to me. I'll get back to that. Anyway, I learned about Ron's qualities before he ever joined Case.
Can you get
His
this out?
loyalty was apparent early on
There.
when we started dating, and he talked about his family and how important that was to him, and that on weekends he would be going back to help do the farming. And I also have to interject, I have the best mother-in-law in the whole world. She is super, and one of the reasons I don't really worry about Ron retiring, because she is so energetic, and he is like her. He isn't one to sit around, there's always something he will want
I
to do.
see it.
And she's just set a very good example for us.
I see it.
It's been an interesting journey with Case. We were very young when we came down here to Burlington, and Ron had interviewed several places, but when he interviewed here at Burlington, I could just tell, you know, just by him meeting some people, that he really hoped that this would be our first place to settle. And he felt at home almost immediately.
There's some broken.
We came and we only had some cots that were borrowed from our parents to sleep on in our apartment that we rented. And we went down to, I think it was Bennett's Furniture, and Ron talked him into a good deal. We'd make some payments and we could get a bedroom set and a couch and chair and table and chairs. 3 rooms of furniture on monthly payments. But Case has been so good to us through the years, and a big part of that has been a lot of you sitting out there tonight. You're great people, and Ron just thought the world of all of you to work with, and he always considered it a team effort. He never came home saying, I did this and I did that. It was, you know, Dave was so helpful in this, and well, it just went on with the different people he was working with. He thought so much of Rudy Horsch. And, of course, Ron has a great mind for figures, and he goes through budgets and he overlooked things, and so they've come up with a few little titles for him through the years, and one was Eagle Eye, and I always thought that was kind of a cute thing, that he'd find things that they'd make mistakes on, and they'd say, oh, the Eagle Eye found it, and of course the old Case emblem was an eagle. And the latest was he's the Sealine solution. And then our journey has also brought us together with some great friends through the years. And not just the Case friends too, but the friends we've met and the places we've lived. And it just was so exciting when we, you know, got the invitations out and we heard back on who was coming. And it's really an old reunion for us too, because many of us haven't seen each other. Some of them just live up in the Quad Cities, but you still just don't get together that often. So now we're beginning a new journey in life, and we're really looking forward to it. Hopefully we can travel a lot and see spots in the United States we haven't and elsewhere, and get to warm spots in the winter. And I also want to thank too Karen Pleasant and Dave Miller and Steve Lees for helping put this together. Barb Miller was so understanding. Dave and I had our nightly talks, and you know, Ron would say, who's on the phone? I'd say a friend. He's been so nosy. So then I have some parting gifts for you. He said he didn't want any gifts. Since there's a honey-do list, I thought you might need some work gloves. I don't want to ruin your hands when you're working in the kitchen or elsewhere. We are going to, this is the new boss, and we can have some fun too, so. And we allow rest periods, and so now that you'll be napping during the day, part of the time that's daylight, I thought you might need some blinders to keep the strong sunlight out. And then when I'm shopping, something a little toy just to play with, something to do with your hands, little figures here and there. I don't know what it'll do, but you'll figure it out. And then when I was shopping, love to shop. It's a piano, you know, a light figure, and it's a game, so it's something more to do. I don't know. One of his favorite things is when we go to the Quad Cities is Whitey's vanilla malt. This may be a little soft. We might need to refreeze it, and a gift certificate for more when we're shopping at the mall. As I said, we hope to travel, and I figured we needed the atlas because we don't like to stop and ask where it is. I was going to get some movies for us to watch, but we need to talk to Sherry about that. And only a few of us understand that, but that's okay. Now, I don't want you to feel left out when I'm working on pictures and scrapbooking and whatnot. And you can look to my sister for help, but you've got a whole basket full of cards there. They took a lot of pictures tonight, so we'll start you with your own scrapbook. You don't have to buy it. So I found something that listed some good things about retirement. It's fun to bask in the envy of others. You can take as long as you like to eat lunch. You can nap. Your nap time will no longer be disturbed by that pesky boss of yours. Clothing is optional. You can hone your putzing and jolly gagging skills. I'm sorry. You don't have to be nice to anyone unless you really want to. 2 words. Sleep in. Monday will no longer be a day to dread. When the phone rings, there might be someone you like on the other end. And the best thing about being retired is you no longer have to put up with you-know-who. Anyway, dear, I'm very proud of you and all the accomplishments. I love you. Thank you to my family, or our family, for coming. It meant a lot to have all of you here. And I guess I'll finally turn it over to Ron.
Well, I know the hour's getting late here, so. Am I on? Okay. So after, I'll try to keep this rather brief. Several of the things that I had down to talk about have already been covered, so that should help here. But I'm a little overwhelmed with everybody's participation coming out tonight. Really appreciate you joining us. And I'd like to pay a special thank you here to some of the committee that and I may have missed some of the people here, but I know Karen worked hard on it, Dave Miller, I'm sure Barb, you must have helped some, and Steve Lees and Shirley. So that means a lot. When they talked about having a party, I said, no, I don't want to have any party. I want to, as quietly as possible. And so we haven't been having going away parties for retirees. And then they came back to me and said, hey, you have no say in this, so we're going to do what we want. You better show up. So, but I'm pleased that all of you that were able to join us tonight. I thought 39 years was an awful long time with the company, and I thought that would make some kind of record. But then I find out Don Duke has me beat by like 7 years. He has 46 years when he retired from Mason Hangar. Stand up, Don. Would you like to recognize you? I doubt if there's anybody here that can beat 46 years. Is it 46 or 47?
46 plus.
46 plus, okay. Well, congratulations. Yeah, I'm not sure either. He's a lot better man than most of us are, or it must have been a lot easier job, because I don't know of too many within KC&H that's able to survive the company that long. Again, following up here, we're so pleased that Sue, Long, that you were able to join us tonight. Many of us have very fond memories of Elton, and if there was time, I'm sure we could go on and tell stories. Dave stole my story on the gas, because I remember that too. Elton said, oh, you'll love the Quad Cities, always gas. Never again, after we moved there, was there ever another gas war. But, one of the things several of you that within CNH are aware that we've had some real cost issues with our product. And, I've really been puzzled because I thought we did a good job of estimating. But I found, in going through things this last week, I found some information on estimating engineering. And I don't know if, John, does that look familiar to you at all? I found this in my files here. It says cost estimating by and for engineering. And it was issued in 1974, and it has John Schultz's name. And it has some comments in here saying that, he says how hard he worked on putting it together, which I don't know whether that was true or not. But anyway, he says that it will be updated as new information is available. But to my knowledge, we've never got an update. What? So I'd like to present this to John and see if he can do something about updating. It's a pretty detailed report. Probably some of John's finest work. But for those of you that don't know John, John worked in the engineering department at Burlington for a number of years, and then in the 80s he was promoted to vice president of engineering for the CE group, and responsible for all CE engineering in Case. And then after he left Case, he is now owner and manager and I think jack of all trades here at Flint Cliffs Manufacturing in Burlington. So we're glad to have John with us tonight. Some other information. You wouldn't believe, after 39 years, how much stuff has been accumulated. I thought I had been cleaning things out pretty well. But another one I found was a memo. And of course, back in the days, back in the 60s, we didn't have emails and all these fancy electronics. You had to, information had to be typed, and you had to use carbon paper. In some ways, that was a real advantage because somebody wanted information and said, well, okay, we'll get it typed and we'll send it to you, and you'll get it maybe next week. Well, today, with my boss being in Germany, many times he would call at, they work on godly hours, sometimes 10, 11 o'clock at night, call 3 o'clock, or 7 hours difference in time. He would call and say, I gotta have it, it's urgent, first thing in the morning. Well, first thing in the morning, 7 hours difference means you've gotta have it done that day, and so, so that's one of the things that I will not miss. But in any respect, one of the memos I found was from, it's dated 1968, it was from Don Andrews, who was the plant manager at Burlington at that time. And again, it's talking about product cost. And product cost is always an issue for engineering product. But some interesting information in that time, just as some examples, it gives what all the product costs were. But at that time, a 850 crawler, total cost was $8,812. Today, a similar product is around $50,000. So the cost has increased, roughly 6 times over that time period. A 580s, we have some people from the motor backhoe group here. In 1968, a 580 cost $4,835. And I don't know what the cost is today, but I know it's not $4,800.
Let's go see. Hi.
So, as a result of that, I became curious, interested in, what inflation, being interested in details. And as you retire, one of your real concerns is what's going to happen in the future? What are things going to cost? And so I went on the internet and did some checking on inflation. And, I'm not going to bore you with a lot of details, but just a few. But it was interesting to me that I didn't realize this. Inflation in the 1914, 1919 range was like 15%. But then through the 20s, the 30s, the 40s, there was either no inflation or actually deflation during that time period. In the 1950s, it was only 0.8%. 1960s, it was only like 5%. But the 70s, which a lot of us went through, the average inflation per year was like 11%. So compounded during that time period, I don't know what that comes out to, but it'd be well over 150%. So from the time I started work in 1964 to today, the inflation is like 492% from during that time period. But just a little bit of, but I can tell you, the data, it doesn't really jive real well for some other I've seen, so don't take it with a grain of salt. One other bit of information that I found was the 1966 JIK's annual report.
Let's go on here.
And
Let's go on here.
Just a couple of bits of information from that. Net sales in 1966 were $326 million for the company. The last 3-4 years, 2000, 2001, 2002, the sales for, however, they didn't make money then. They made $17 billion in 1966. The last 3 years or so for the company, sales have been around $10 billion for a CNH, but we've lost money every year. So, but it's quite a change. Their sales have increased like 30 times from what they were back in the 60s. Over the years, the engineering principles, have not changed as far as, heat transfer, basic metallurgical principles have not changed at all, but certainly the analysis tools have changed dramatically. When I was in school and some of the rest of you at my time, there was no electronic calculators. It was slide rules. And I remember, I think Case Company company, when some of the first calculators came out, you know, they got a special deal and they were like $400 for a calculator that we were able to purchase individually. What, say what?
Still have mine.
You still have yours?
Doesn't run.
Doesn't run. But, you know, since that time, you know, today you can buy a calculator for less than $20 that has far more capability. So although costs have gone up dramatically in the last 30, 40 years, some things, electronic things, have not gone up. As mentioned, I guess Shirley there's a lot of things over my career that I feel I've really come kind of full circle. You know, a number of us started at Burlington and are back, ending up currently at Burlington. One of the first projects that you worked on was 1150 when I started, and one of the last projects that worked with in making product definition on was the replacement for our current 1150H. One of my first bosses that I worked for was German, Ruby Horsch, and my last boss was German, Dr. Bremers. And you know, I really appreciate all the kind remarks that were made, but I think everybody realizes product development is not, it's a team activity. And I think on the Dozer team over the years we've had some excellent people, excellent team members. It's been a small group, but I think for a small group, a lot was accomplished. You know, looking back on the career, I'm very pleased that, you know, you can go into, as an engineer, there's so many fields you can go into. You can work for large companies. You know, you can work for, you know, General Motors, GE, and you may have a very specialized area. You can work in research and you may work your whole career and never see anything realized. But with the area that we worked in here, it was, you know, it's not the big GMs, the GEs, the large companies, but it's not the real small company either. It's kind of in between where you have the opportunity to do a variety of jobs. And one of the things that I think is very satisfying as an individual is to see that the things that you worked on actually materialize and see them out in production. I know I always enjoy, if you travel across the country, and there may be a pile of junk sitting out there someplace, but you say, hey, I had a part, some small part in the development of that product. As I said, I believe we have a good team at Burlington, and I wish Burlington CNH employees and their families the best of the future. But it looks like the economy is turning around, and nothing would be better for the company and the economy would be to have, and we are seeing some of that, some definite improvement in the sales. I know the new Dozer series, my understanding is it's sold out through 2004, and they're adding 200 plus units into the schedule down at Calhoun. One person I'd like to recognize, you know, for the K series is Ed Dalton. I mean, he was relentless as product manager for the product. Time and time again, he kept coming back. Can we do this? Can we do that? Can we add? And many things we said no to, but it was because of his persistent pushing for adding features. Part of his responsibility is also because of cost increase, but anyway, a lot of the features that were added are because of his determination, pushing for feedback to customers. Many times I'd say, no, we can't do it. It's good enough. We can't. But he would keep insisting, and several items that were added definitely added to the features and to the acceptability of the product out in the marketplace.
That total team effort, though, really.
Yes.
That's
Right. It was a team effort, definitely. But you were a major contributor to that team. product development, I hope that the company will continue to fund and support product development activity. And I'll put a lot of responsibility back to Rick Hall. Rick he's the governess of the CE product line. So he has a lot of influence, I think influenced, no?
Depends on the day.
Input into what happens within the company. But certainly we've seen many examples that if you don't continue to invest and support product development, products will soon become obsolete and they will disappear. You can't just, you may have an excellent product today, but you've got to continue to work at making improvements or they will be gone. Just a couple of quick stories. Any of you that are going back to the Quad Cities, I would warn you to be careful when you go through bluegrass. I recall back, and I'm not sure who all was with me, but I think it was a retirement party for Paul Duffy. That Bill Budd, were you with? And I know Rudy Horsch was with, and I don't remember when the time was, but it was back in the 1970s, I think. Anyway, it was here at the same location here for a retirement party for Paul Duffy, and I was chosen to be the driver. And on the way back, and I consider myself a pretty careful driver, stay within the speed limits, but in any respect, going through bluegrass, and it was late, 11:30, so at night on a return trip, and I was following the speed limits, and it was 25, but as we reached the edge of town, I started to accelerate and speed up. All of a sudden, behind here, I see the police car pull out, and his lights, and Rudy says, "Oh, don't pay any attention to him." Just pretend like you don't see him. Just keep going. At any respect, that was one of the times that I didn't listen to him, and I did stop, and I did get a traffic ticket. So, and after that, I always heard horror stories about now at least there's a freeway bypass through bluegrass, but it had a reputation for picking people up quickly. In closing, I want to thank my family and my wife, Shirley, for putting up with me. You know, I was surprised to hear the girls say that I put family before work. and maybe that was true when the girls were home. But, you know, I must say the last several years, I don't think that I've been very good about with my priorities. You know, I must say that there's been a number of missed trips, many late dinners. The list of home projects has always been a good excuse. Oh, I don't have time for that. I've got to go to the office. So I won't have that excuse anymore. And for all of you people who have made moves, I know for us, we've lived in 4 homes in Burlington, 2 in Wausau, 1 in Bettendorf. Seems like about all we've accomplished is getting the house about the way we wanted it, and then it was time to sell it and move on and find something else. Well, some people enjoy that, but for others it's pretty trying. And I know for a lot of you wives who has been very disruptive for your careers of making the move. So, you know, I appreciate those of you. For the men, it was a lot easier because you were moving, your work stayed the same, your friends stayed the same, but for your, and I know some anyway, Sherry for one. She didn't quite make it, I don't know. She lasted only like, how long were we in Wausau, 2 years?
9 months.
9 months. And then she left poor John in Wausau by himself, and she moved back to the Quad Cities. But I'm glad that they're still together, and they did survive. So, in any respect, I'd like to thank the wives for what inconvenience they put up over the time. Because, like I say, for a number of us, it's been quite a journey, but overall, I think it's been good. I've certainly enjoyed my opportunities with Case. And I know I'm going to miss, certainly will miss people. I will miss the development activity, but I will not miss doing the budgets. I mean, we do budgets many, many times. Then we start, after we think they're finalized, then we start reducing them. And certainly over the last 3-4 years, we've seen a lot of that. But for the best thing that could happen to the company is to start making some money. If it start making some money, then I think things would, and that looks promising. So with that, I know it's late, several of you have to travel, but really appreciate you coming out tonight, and look forward to continuing our friendships. And even though I'm not at the plant, I hope that you will keep me informed of the good things that are going on. I don't hear about the bad things. And those of you that are traveling, hope that you have a safe trip back home. So thank you.
Want to say that Paul Harvey, the rest of the story was, because with his figures, it's the spreadsheet. And so for Christmas, our Christmas list was done on a spreadsheet. So he's not getting away from the figures altogether. Also, we'd like a couple pictures taken of the Case guys that all work together that have come, so if you come up here and maybe we could get a few. And then maybe one of us Case wives too, before you leave tonight, so would appreciate that.